We're grinders. RotoGrinders. Yeah, we're grinding. RotoGrinders. Yeah, we're grinders. Yeah, we're grinding. RotoGrinders. We're grinding. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time on a Saturday evening or late afternoon, depending on where you are. I am Britt Devine. We're back with a repeat. Justin Van Zuden, TJ, Spidey Bomb. He's back. TJ, thank you for the the double dong earlier. Yep.
The Max Muncy double dong for the Spidey Bombs, and then we also said to bet James Outman at that plus 700 odds today, and he double donged as well. So nice morning for the home run calls. Let's keep it going for the evening.
Yeah. Cards, what's going on? Busy day.
Yeah, it's been an ugly day here. Once again, it seems like every weekend we've had bad weather, but didn't hurt those Dodgers out there in Chicago this afternoon, hitting some of those homers. So thankfully, we didn't see 3 homers by Jason Hayward, so that call didn't end up coming back to haunt me. But we talked about those lefty power bats, and Muncy and Outman both from the left side. So if you were on those Dodgers left-handed bats this afternoon, worked out well for you, and we'll see what the night slate brings here.
No Patrick Wisdom home run. I mean,
that guy is just washed. He finally is, like, I believe that's his first weekend day in about 3 weeks not hitting a homer. So he's got to figure it out.
The 2023 weekend Crunch Time show splits have let us down finally with Patrick Wisdom. All right, let's get into the slate tonight. We'll start at pitching. There's 2 guys I think clearly at the top tonight, Cards, and maybe you want to throw Framber Valdez in there, but I think going up against Atlanta, maybe a little bit riskier than a couple of the other guys out there. I'm really looking at Luis Castillo. He's going up against your Cardinals, so you got to be pretty high on Castillo with the anti-Cardinals take always in play with you. And then you've got Andrew Heaney, who is significantly cheaper, and what he gets you today is access to the hitters that you actually want to roster, in my opinion. So my question to you is it Castillo, on the one site like Fanduel today, and maybe you have to forego a Trout or an Ohtani, or take your pick, maybe both of them, right? Because you just can't reach that elite hitter tier. Or is Andrew Heaney good enough to get access to the premier bats on the slate?
Yeah, I think Heaney is fine, depending on the projection source you look at. He has the highest projection on the slate. So without even factoring in price. And I think to me, it's pretty clear that it's Heaney and Castillo at the top. And I wrote up tonight that 3 pitchers really is all I'm interested in my player pool. And, it's Castillo and Heaney, and then maybe you throw Valdez or Musgrove in there. But there's just not a whole lot of other guys that project well, not a whole lot of other guys with strikeout upside. If you look, the strikeout props, Gibson 4.5, Kelly 4.5, Miley 4.5, everybody else 3.5, 4.5. Then Castillo's at 6.5. Valdez is at 6.5, and Heaney's at 7.5. So, and he's facing Oakland as a giant home favorite. To me, you can let your lineup dictate. It's probably Castillo plus Heaney on DraftKings for me. On FanDuel, I don't care wherever you land. If it gets you access to the extra hitter that you want to throw Heaney in there, I think that's just fine. I think they're definitely a clear number 1, clear number 2. Castillo facing the Cardinals, who are they're a hot mess right now. They got, I think, 4 base runners the whole game last night. So don't expect miracles with Castillo and his really good numbers on the mound against them tonight. So, yeah, it's pretty clear to me that those are the top 2. And we don't have the aces that we had this afternoon. Makes the discussion pretty simple, in my opinion.
Before I throw it to TJ, please click the like button on YouTube. We're at 35. We've got 210 watching, TJ. Is it 50 the first Spidey Bomb? And then what's the next tier?
50 for the first, 75 for the second, and we're going to do 100 for the third. I want to make sure we get to 75 nice and quick, though, so people can get these in, because the first one is a great player and it's mostly a DFS pick more than anything else because he's not picking up a ton of ownership. The second one, great betting odds.
TJ, I got news for you. They already got it past 50, so let's just get right to the first Spidey bomb.
Love it, my people. Let's go. 19 away from the second one. Let's get it popping. The first one today, Yordan Alvarez going up against Kyle Wright, who has not been able to just like get a soft contact ball against left-handed batters this year. Just getting crushed by lefties. And even in the past, when he's been on the top of his game, he still gives up over 40% hard hits to lefties. So the first one is Yordan Alvarez. And we're already at 70 likes. Give me 5 more, people. I'll give you the second Spidey bomb right off the bat here. You'll love to see it. It's Jared Kelenic. He's plus 600 on FanDuel Sportsbook today, our sponsor. He's coming in super low owned. Michaelis has been terrible so far this year. Just absolutely terrible. And if you look at what he's done to lefties, obviously it's a small sample size, about 50 at bats, but he can't keep the ball on the ground, only 14% ground balls. He's getting hit 57% of the time, hard hit rate. And so I just absolutely love Jared Kelenic today. He's my favorite GPP batter. I'm getting to he's one of my, I think my third or fourth highest owned batter today, and he's going to be coming in at 5% owned. Favorite play on the slate, and I love him as a home run bet as well.
All right, cards play that we got plus 600. Guess what the Yordan or as our producer Devin, Yordan Alvarez's odds are. The best odds I found were on the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Let's go 295.
So that there were much worse odds than that out there. 360 on FanDuel, I believe it was.
Not bad.
So that was a nice one. And Jared Kelenic also got that one in. So thank you to TJ for the 2 Spidey bombs. Is there more in the pipeline, TJ?
We're only 15 likes away from the next one, and there is in fact more in the pipeline. So let's do it.
All right. So before we get to those, let's actually talk pitchers, tournaments. Heaney, Castillo, what are you doing with them? And then the best of the rest.
So this is very site dependent for me. On our wonderful sponsor FanDuel, I'm not going to mess around. It doesn't matter if I'm playing 2 lineups or 150 lineups. I think it's just going to be Heaney and Castillo for me. I might mix in Kyle Gibson. Realistically, I would consider mixing in both of those pitchers in that Detroit and Baltimore game. Roth just tweeted out they're pulling the tarp over there. The rain's clearing ahead of schedule. All looks very well there. He's kind of given us the all clear to play. There is a chance something pops up later in the game, but for the most part, it looks good. I would maybe consider Kyle Gibson or, crazily enough, maybe even Joey Wentz. But it's probably just a 2-pitcher show for me on FanDuel with Andrew Heaney and Luis Castillo. On DraftKings, I'm doing some crazy stuff on DraftKings. While Castillo and Heaney are by far the 2 best options, Castillo could have an average game against a strong, patient St. Louis lineup. Maybe they haven't been doing great lately, but they might not strike out a ton either. Andrew Heaney could do great, but we also see him just do terrible at times and get out of the game in the 3rd, 4th inning. And so I actually am playing quite a few different pitchers in GPPs today. Most of these guys I'm getting to, I'm also stacking against, but a lot of them I'm getting to in tournaments just because I think they got upside and not many people are going there today. So I'm playing 30% Kyle Wright on DraftKings. He's super cheap. He looked better last game. He was coming off an injury in his first start and looked bad. And he came back from it. And then his next game, and he went 6 2/3, looked decent. I love Yordan Alvarez. I love Kyle Tucker, and I'm stacking up Houston today, but I'm also going to get 30% Kyle Wright just because he's so cheap. Garrett Whitlock, Kyle Gibson, and Joey Wentz and Tyler Anderson are all guys I'm trying to get 15 to 20% of today. And then even Merrill Kelly is in my pool, and you're not going to believe this, but the last pitcher in my pool who I'm getting 6% of because he's 5K flat, and I have in 50 of my 150 lineups are Texas stacks. So I got 6% Fujinami. He's probably going to be terrible.
Is that 6%? Bye-bye.
TJ's paying half the rate tonight.
Look, listen though, because if that 6% goes bye-bye, which it most likely is, 50 of my Texas stacks are just going to be looking absolutely beautiful. And so I don't care about those 9 lineups. Those 9 lineups of 150, that 6%, great donation. I don't care about it whatsoever. But if the Texas chalk, which I'm heavily overweight on, disappoints, well, then I got a little bit of a backup plan in there as a hedge.
I can understand that, Andre. I would not do that personally. I understand, especially tonight, because even if you use Heaney and Castillo, who are both reasonably priced, neither one is like overly expensive. You have to make some pretty drastic bat decisions. You know, you have to take a 2K guy hitting 9th or 7th, right? You know, and maybe even another one of those to get the expensive bats on there tonight. So I'm assuming that's what those lineups look like. You're getting some of those expensive bats. I understand it. But Fujinami has, I don't know. He's not it cards, right?
Yeah, he
So
seems a little overwhelmed at the MLB level. Like every number is pretty rough. It's small sample size, so you know there is room for improvement. But yeah, it's not been good for him so far.
Yeah, that Tatis guy, not a good MLB player in his first 2 games at the MLB level.
That's what happens when you're not juicing it up anymore. He's just not going to be the same guy.
All right, just a couple more likes away. We're at 94. We need 6 more to get the next Spidey bomb. Get that over. We'll hear from TJ in just a little bit. Let's go to offense real quick. Cards, the lay of the land. And this maybe is what TJ's saying. Everyone's going to be playing Texas. Everyone's going to be playing Mike Trout and Ohtani and Rendon and those guys from the Angels today. San Diego, their lineup probably would have looked better with Machado, but it's still pretty playable against Merrill Kelly. You got a favorite offense tonight, and then do you have any sleeper teams you'd want to take a couple shots on?
Yeah, I mean, Texas is obviously the answer to, you know, who's going to be the favorite for most people tonight against Fujinami and whatever Oakland throws out there for bullpen guys. Oakland used their reasonably good bullpen arms last night because they actually won a game for, I think, the 3rd time, maybe 4. They've either got 3 or 4 wins. Hard to believe a team's been worse than the Cardinals, but Oakland has qualified under that metric. So, yeah, Texas is going to be the team for most people. I will be underweight, I think, on the Angels because I don't want to go super cheap at pitcher. And like you mentioned, you do have to make some concessions there with your bats. You can't get the best of everything. So, really high ownership on Trout and Ohtani. And just hoping that Greinke can keep them in the yard. I mean, the Angels stack is a little less appealing for me because at the very least, Greinke's going to make you put the ball in play. Maybe he gets some good BABIP luck for a night. And with those top end bats for the Angels being super chalky, that's the team I'm probably the most underweight on. I do like Texas. I do like Seattle. And San Diego is probably my number 2 behind Texas just because of how deep that lineup is with Tatis back. Merrill Kelly allows a lot of hard contact. His advanced numbers have been pretty ugly the last couple of years, even though he's kind of gotten away with it. But he's been one of the good fortune pitchers in the league. So my exposure, probably Texas, San Diego, Baltimore, and then, you know, maybe Seattle. And then if you want a sleeper team, I think Milwaukee is fairly interesting. Whitlock can be really good. He can also get blown up a little bit. So, yeah, Milwaukee would kind of be my under-the-radar offense.
All right, TJ, we've got Spidey Bomb number 3 on deck. Who are you looking at?
We are getting a little bit crazy with this one. Going to be basically completely unowned in GPPs on DraftKings, on Fanduel. I believe they're getting still sub 10%, but I know cards like this play as well because I didn't notice it before, but there's actually a little blue tag here. Plus 700 on Fanduel to hit a home run today. I like Kyle Gibson in tournaments, but he's never been able to get lefties out.
Yes, it's Kerry Carpenter
this year. It's Kerry Carpenter hitting one out of the park tonight.
I like Kerry Carpenter tonight. I'm on board with this.
And what's that? Plus, I'm looking at a plus, what'd you say, 700 on FanDuel.com?
Yes, sir.
That sounds good to me. I know someone was on him on Scores and Odds a couple days ago. I think it was,
Luch.
might have been Luch. And that came through on that one time. He had the walk-off home run. So what a way to get it, the home run prop. but let's get on Kerry Carpenter plus 700 on FanDuel. I'm certainly okay with that. And in terms of other offense from a GPP perspective, what are you looking at tonight, TJ?
So only 21 likes away from a fourth Spidey bomb. Let's get it done. Let's get up to 125. So Texas is in a tier of their own today. They're my tier 1 stack. This is why I'm getting 6% of the Oakland pitcher today, Fujinami, because in terms of my stacks, I got 30% of my lineups are Texas stacks. My tier 2, which I'm getting about 10% of each of these, are the Angels, the Astros, the Padres, and the Mariners. Those are the 4 teams that I like next because I'm taking some shots to go cheap at pitcher today in some of my spots. I can get to Ohtani. I can get to Trout. I can get to Renfroe. I have the salary, and so I like getting to those LA stacks. I'm legitimately, because it's a small slate, only, 7 games here? 6 games? 7 games? I have at least 2 stacks of every single team on the slate. I have 2 Oakland stacks. I got 3 St. Louis stacks. That's kind of
kiss those goodbye too.
Right at the bottom with Atlanta, but like KC, Boston, and Baltimore would be my tier 3 alongside Milwaukee and Arizona maybe. And then St. Louis, Atlanta, and Oakland would be like tier 4. And I'm only considering that if you're running 150 lineups.
All right, let's go position by position as quick as we can. We'll get to some questions as well. Catcher cards. We've got Sal Perez. You can play him on FanDuel if you want to. DraftKings, he's a little bit too expensive for the lineups I was looking at. I've defaulted to hitter against Fujinami. Jonah Heim hitting 6 at 3,600 is a nice sort of mid-tier play that I've landed on personally. You like those 2, and then what else is out there?
Yeah, I just don't think it's probably optimal in a cash game type setting to spend top dollar here tonight. Like Rutschman's great, but 5,500 on DraftKings on a slate like this probably doesn't make the most sense because you're going to want to spend that salary at other positions. So I think it's the mid-tier. I think Cal Raleigh is interesting in GPPs hitting cleanup tonight. If you're looking a little safer, I think Milwaukee Contreras and Jonah Heim are probably the 2. Heim is the one I have tagged. I don't really have a strong take among them, but I think somewhere in that William Contreras, Jonah Heim range is probably where you want to land tonight.
TJ, you got any dongs from the catcher position tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at some potential odds, and I don't love them other than maybe Jonah Heim today. But Cal Raleigh is the other guy that I really like at the catcher position today. Those 2 are going to occupy almost half of my lineups. Sal Perez, Gabriel Moreno, Adley Rutschman, those are guys that I don't mind getting into my lineups as well. But everybody else, it's just like in the 5% range, only guys I'm stacking in. All
right, cards. First base, what are we looking at?
All right. This will depend on site tonight, but on DraftKings, if it fits your lineup and you want to play Ohtani at first, go ahead. Obviously you can also play him in the outfield as well, but other than that, he's probably the spend up at the position. Like Goldschmidt is 6,300 on DK and Olsen is 6,200. The top end guys are a little bit more gettable on FanDuel. But it's hard to get that 6K plus on DK. I think Matt Carpenter's in play tonight as well against Kelly. I mean, he hit a home run the other night. Still hits righties really well. He's hitting 5th with Machado not in there tonight. He's really cheap on both FanDuel and DraftKings. If you can't quite get up to the top end guys, I think Brandon Drury's fine as well. Nathaniel Lowe for Texas if you want to default to the Texas bats. Rowdy Tellez, again, he's been, his price has come up a little bit, but still feels a little cheap. So another spot where maybe you can live in that mid-range or value with guys like Tellez, Carpenter, Drury, if you're not spending all the way up.
And then tournaments, TJ, a couple of Carpenter was certainly someone I was going to mention as a one-off bomb. Shouldn't have too much ownership, maybe a little bit, but at just a cheap price tag. He's how you get access to some of the more premier bats out there in the slate. There's just, you're going to have, at least on DraftKings, 1 or 2, if not 3 of these 3 cash and below guys to really get access to some of the premier bats.
14 more likes away from our next Spidey bomb. It may or may not be at this position. By far, my favorites are Shohei Ohtani and Nathaniel Lowe. I'm getting 20+% of both of those guys today. Ty France, Jake Cronenworth, Rowdy Tellez. That's kind of my next group that I like quite a bit. And for the most part, other than that, it's just a stack outside of the last Spidey Bomb, who we're 12 likes away from.
All right, let's go to second base. I'm finding myself going all the way down in salary. Marcus Semien is a great play cards, but if you stack him up, is it Marcus Semien or Mike Trout? Or, which one would you rather play today? I guess you could make a case against Semien. He's having a pretty good start. It's against Fujinami, but I'm not really finding him, at least from my cash game lineup. I'm going basically bottom of the barrel here today.
Yeah, this position in my eyes is relatively weak. So I think the opportunity cost is higher here than it is in the outfield. So as weird as it sounds, I actually do think if I was choosing between Semien and a cheap outfielder or a cheap second baseman and Trout, I kind of like the lineups with Semien a little bit better. To each their own on that. But if you're, I don't really like Brad Miller. Odor is min salary, but Nick Maton leading off, I suppose, is fine. But I don't know. I just don't like these punt second basemen. Rengifo would probably be the play on DraftKings at 3,200 if that salary works for you. But the position is just so ugly that outside of Semien, there's not a whole lot of high-end stuff that I like. Like Albies, a tough matchup for him tonight. Ketel Marte, tough matchup for him. Nolan Gorman, tough matchup for him. So you're either going with Semien or you're going cheap. And I like the cheap outfielders a little better. So I am prioritizing Semien.
All right. TJ, what's your take on the position?
Also prioritizing Semien today. He's my highest owned batter. He's in 37% of my lineups today. Luis Rengifo is my next favorite. And then outside of that, it's mostly just stacking. But I don't hate taking shots on guys who are leading off like a Nick Maton or a Jordan Diaz if you're not playing what's his face Andrew Heaney. Holy shit!
All right, let's go.
If you're not playing Andrew Heaney, so I don't mind Jordan Diaz as a one-off as well.
You got dogs barking, me coughing and hacking up. We'll see. I don't know. Cards just has Diet Pepsi hanging around. Hopefully it doesn't fizz out and go all over the place during the middle of the show.
I'll be good.
Let's go to third base. Cards, what are we doing there?
We'll try to be the glue that holds it together here for us. Once again, third base is just kind of meh tonight. Like Josh Young at 4,100 on DraftKings is probably going to be the chalk, hitting fifth for Texas tonight. Fine, not a guy that you got to go out of your way every day to go and get. Gunnar Henderson's hitting eighth tonight, so I really don't like him all that much. Maybe this is a spot where you look to Seattle with Michaelis not striking a lot of guys out. So Suarez, I think just in general, Seattle maybe not getting enough attention with how bad Michaelis has been. So Suarez, maybe more of a tournament play, but Suarez, Rendon, you can always pay up for Devers and nobody plays him lefty, but he just continues to mash. I just don't know if I have the salary to get there tonight, but definitely a strong tournament play. Probably going to land on Josh Young in cash games, but another position that I just don't like a whole lot tonight.
TJ, what about from the tournament side? Oh, you're on mute.
I always forget to unmute anytime the dogs go crazy. Like all the positions for me today, it's like I'm going for a Texas guy first and foremost. So Josh Young is going to be my favorite here. On Fanduel, where you can play Bobby Witt Jr. at third, I don't mind him at 3,300. Austin Riley, even though it's in a really tough matchup at 3,500, that's still a good price as well. On Fanduel, you can play Rengifo here as well. After Jung, for me, it's Anthony Rendon on DraftKings for my second favorite guy, Alex Bregman, number 3, and then Suarez, number 4.
I want to thank FanDuel for giving us all those nice home run odds on the Spidey Bombs. Spidey Bombs were 5 likes away from more Spidey Bombs, and we would all appreciate hearing more of those. And a big thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the show. If you are in a legal sports betting state, you can take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers, you can bet $5 and you get $150 in bonus bets. Check the terms and conditions on that. But always nice to get free money from the sites by signing up. So make sure to check out FanDuel if you have not tried them. All right, shortstop cards. TJ mentioned Bobby Witt. He's looking pretty good to me on both sites. There's a couple other options. Where do you stand?
Yeah, he's definitely fine on FanDuel. I don't like him quite as much on DraftKings where he's 5K. Little bit tougher to get, and we've got him at about 25% ownership. He's basically on DK. He's basically the same price as Bogarts, and give me Bogarts at a fifth of the ownership if you're looking for GPP pivots. So, like Witt, a good chunk tonight, but I don't mind pivoting in GPPs to guys that have similar ceiling. I just think that San Diego offense with Tatis back in there is going to start going off a little bit more here in the next couple of weeks. So, want to be aboard that train. Gio Urshela, I think, is fine. We're on sites where he's shortstop eligible. He's 4,100 on DK. Just other option, Rengifo sites you can play. Some sites you can play him at short. So a lot of multi-position eligibility guys here. But if you're looking to get away from the Witt chalk, I think Bogarts is my pivot in that price range.
All right, TJ, we're one like away. Let's just get it over with right now. Someone click the like button. Let's get that Spidey bomb.
All right, we are going over to Baltimore for Spidey bomb number 4 at first base. It's Ryan Mountcastle. Yes, it's a limited sample size, and of course there will be regression, but why not try and ride this hot streak while he's having it? What do you think his Ryan Mountcastle's ISO is to left-handed bats so far this year?
ISO to, well, it's got to be high if you're asking that. So what? Let's go 420.
591.
All right.
He's basically just hitting extra bases every single time a lefty throws him the ball. So might as well ride it until it's gone. Spidey bomb number 4, Ryan Mountcastle. At the shortstop position today, Luis Rengifo is going to be my highest owned play. I like Bobby Witt. I like Xander Bogaerts a lot. Most of the other guys for me are basically just going to be stacking only type plays. Obviously, you can play Fernando Tatis here on FanDuel. But my favorite GPP option, and I don't think you have to stack the team here, like maybe if you want to do a little mini stack with somebody like a Devers, I don't mind that at all. But I really like Kike Hernandez. This is a guy who has always been very good to left-handed pitching, a 200 ISO over the last season. Miley is very good at getting ground balls, but Kike Hernandez is a massive fly ball hitter. I like Hernandez as a cheap option on both sites. That is very contrarian for tournaments.
Well, let's go to the outfield. We'll wrap it up here. Cards. I need to know who are some of the cheap outfielders. There's about 30 of them if you on DraftKings and FanDuel you can look at. None of them in the greatest of spots. So talk about who your favorites are and then the best picks from the value spot.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely looking to get one value play in the outfield tonight. I mean, my favorite is obviously Kerry Carpenter, who was one of the Spidey bombs, and I've got him tagged up as my favorite value tonight. So hitting cleanup, he's under 3K on FanDuel. He's 3K flat on DraftKings. Nice value there. Ref Snyder always gets a good lineup spot for Boston against lefties, and they've faced a ton of them. So I like him as a value. He's around the same price. On sites where Corbin Carroll is still fairly cheap, I think you could look to him, despite facing Musgrove, who Musgrove has kind of faded a bit over the last, the back half of last year, first part of this year. Jesse Winker, another one of my favorite values in the outfield tonight, hitting second for the Brewers. Guy with some pop in that lineup. So those are kind of my favorite 3 or 4 value guys. And then you work them around kind of your favorite spend up, which for a lot of people is going to be Ohtani. It's going to be Trout. It's going to be Adolis Garcia. And you're going to kind of get this build where you're spending for an outfielder, you're saving on an outfielder, and maybe you're going mid-range for your third outfield where you can get, one of those Seattle guys, Jared Kelenic, who we brought up earlier in the show as well, is fine. And Teoscar Hernandez, who homered last night, is fine. So I think most of my lineups, I'm going with one spend, one save, and one mid-range outfielder seems to be working out.
TJ, what's the outfield look like from the GPP perspective?
So my highest owned outfielder today is none other than Mike Trout. I love Trout today, especially he comes at a little bit of a discount from Ohtani and some of these other outfielders. I think he's kind of the first one you want to go to for cash games going up against Greinke, who's not going to strike anybody out. And honestly, if you're not striking out Mike Trout, he's probably getting a hit. And so love Trout today. In the mid-tier, Jared Kelenic, where he's currently projected for sub 5% ownership, and he is my second highest owned bat. Actually, he's tied for my highest owned outfielder with Mike Trout today. Absolutely love him as a one-off or part of a Seattle stack. For some cheapies that I'm going to, Travis Jankowski, Leody Taveras, Trent Grisham. I like all of these guys. Kerry Carpenter. And I'm just trying to pair them up with Trout, Ohtani, Yordan Alvarez, Garcia, Hunter Renfroe, Kyle Tucker. That's kind of all the people at the top of my list today. I wish I could get a little more Julio Rodriguez. I'm terrified that I'm underweight on Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis. Like, I have 7% Soto and 7% Tatis. I'm only playing them in stacks. And so if those guys go off, if Tatis is all of a sudden just back at high ownership, then I'm probably not going to make much money today. But I'm trying to go heavily overweight on all these other guys.
All right. We're going to take some Discord questions from the MLB Crunch Time channel and then YouTube to close out the show. Just a few minutes left. Get your questions in. Let's see here. Michael Radish, 2v2 for GPPs. This was earlier in the show. Janikowski and Nate Lowe or Adolis Garcia and Carpenter?
The first one for me.
Cards?
I'll take the other. I mean, I like Carpenter a lot tonight, so give me that one.
Yeah, I'll go with the second one. We'll overrule TJ on that particular one. Carolina guy TJ wants to know your favorite FanDuel single entry pitcher and your favorite low owned pitcher if you were to swerve from those top three guys on FanDuel.
It would be Castillo as my favorite single entry pitcher. And then if I'm making a swerve, it would be Kyle Gibson. But if that was one of the people you were considering in your top three, I wouldn't do it. But if I'm taking any other type of shot, it would be Joey Wentz on FanDuel, just because he's so much cheaper than everybody else.
All right, Carolina guy's got another question in. 3,500 left on FanDuel. He's got a Texas stack. Are we playing Witt or Adames to finish that lineup up?
I guess Witt, but I like Rowdy Tellez better.
Cards to Witt or Adames if you got a choice between those two.
Yeah, I would take Witt just between the shortstops there.
All right, NBA DFS ones. Oh, yes, the Kelenic. Are there any Spidey bombs in waiting? Are we done with those for the night, TJ?
I'd love for us to get 100 to 150 likes, but honestly, I don't think the people can do it.
All right, let's see. Maybe he has another one. NBA DFS, Rengifo and Tatis or Witt Semien for FanDuel cash cards?
Yeah, I'd take the second one. I think it's much safer these days, at least until Tatis gets it rolling consistently.
Yeah, Witt Semien is a very strong combination tonight, in my opinion. Let's see. Steve-O wants to know, cards, I'm going to aim this to you. He's trying to take down a GPP. Can he do it with the Cardinals versus a familiar foe?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. I knew that was coming. A one-off on FanDuel, $2,500 is from Michael Radish. Anyone on Jose Abreu tonight, or TJ, would you have someone else $2,500 or less?
That was FanDuel?
Yes.
I don't love Jose Abreu today. Kerry Carpenter is that guy. Unless if that was a utility, it's Kerry Carpenter. If that was the first base position, I'd really try and find a little bit more for Carpenter or Christian Walker. But if you can't, then yeah, Abreu is the guy I'd go with.
All right. Jay Sams wants to know, FanDuel, Texas being highest owned, do you think Janikowski will be higher owned than 5% tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, I think all the Texas bats will be.
For what it's worth, for that last question, if it had to be like, if it's not a first base, absolutely it's Kerry Carpenter. But if you had to play a first base, if you're not doing Andrew Heaney, I would go Jesus Aguilar as my one-off.
Yeah, and as far I have the bat pulled up. The bat's projecting about 12% for Janikowski. I think that's about right on tonight's slate, if you ask me. Let's see here. Looks like we've hit lineup lock, and we've answered all the questions on Discord. Just trying to see anyone. I guess we've hit lock. Anyone have any other bets? I've bet. I'm on Houston over Atlanta tonight. It's based Framber Valdez versus Kyle Wright. Seems like a mismatch, and I got it at plus 100. Basically, I mean, it's better than even. I mean, it is even money. That was a bet I made during the show. Anyone have any thoughts on that one, or Cards? Do you have anything else you were looking at tonight?
Yeah, I've bet the under on Michaelis strikeouts in all of his starts so far, which has been profitable because he's been so terrible. So I am contractually obligated to keep doing that. Somehow it's still at 4.5 with juice on the over, which makes no sense because he's not pitching deep into games. He only got 4 Ks against the Pirates in his last outing. He only got 3 the start before that. And now he's facing Seattle. So continue to bet the under on Michaelis strikeouts or pitcher outs or whatever unders on Michaelis until he turns it around. And that's not me just being, Cardinals pessimist fan at this point. He's shown nothing. So bias one way or the other aside. I think that's the props I'm looking at tonight. No, and people don't like playing unders. Like people like playing homers and Ks and the good stuff where you want them to rack it up. And I know it's not fun to play unders, but it's been working out against him so far.
The bet, it's either an over or an under, or one side's got to win. So the under on Michael, it seems about as safe as it comes right now. Cards, I'm definitely on board with that one,
especially since that's around even money, maybe even plus money in some spots.
I'll go check that. And TJ, anything else on the tip of your tongue in terms of home run bets or anything else out there you were looking at?
Nope, managed to get them all out of the way today. We did good.
All right, I'm gonna go hammer in that Michaelis under prop. I'm gonna ride with Cards on that one. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you watched the earlier show, thanks for that. If you watched this show, thank you for watching this one. For Cards and TJ, I'm Britt, and we out ya.